Might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please?
Do you remember when television felt gentle, when a soft voice, a cardigan, and the sound of a trolley could make the world seem safe again? Long before screens became loud, fast, and endless, there was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, a small show with an enormous heart. It asked children to slow down to listen and to believe that kindness mattered more than spectacle. Behind the calm music and the friendly smile, however, lived one of the most quietly radical stories in television history. Fred Rogers didn't just teach manners, he reshaped an entire generation's idea of goodness. Every gesture, every prop, every word he spoke carried hidden meaning, from acts of civil courage to moments of unexpected humor and grace. Today, his neighborhood feels like a time capsule from another era, a reminder that sincerity can still be powerful, and that even the simplest acts of care can leave echoes for decades. Fact 12. The pool scene that rewrote civil rights history. It was the summer of 1969. Across America, cities were still tense from the civil rights movement, and the nation's television screens mostly showed programs that avoided controversy altogether. Yet on one quiet afternoon, a children's show did something extraordinary without raising its voice. Fred Rogers, dressed in his familiar cardigan, sat beside Officer Francois Clemens, a black police officer on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and invited him to cool their feet together in a small wading pool. The scene lasted only a few minutes, but it changed the visual language of television forever. At a time when many public pools across the United States were still segregated or only recently integrated, this simple act carried profound meaning. Rogers offered no speeches, no slogans, and no dramatic music. Instead, the moment unfolded naturally, two men sharing water on a hot day. Yet, to those who understood the cultural climate, it was an unmistakable declaration that kindness and equality could coexist, and that decency could confront prejudice in the gentlest possible way. When Clemens later recalled the moment, he described it as deeply personal, not just performance, but affirmation. Years later, in 1993, the pair recreated the scene during one of Clemens's final appearances, echoing how progress itself often needs reminding. It was a quiet revolution made not through anger, but through empathy, an example of how one man's calm presence on television could nudge the conscience of a nation. The wading pool may have been small, but its ripple reached far beyond the studio into a generation's collective understanding of compassion and equality. Fact 11. Batman worked as Fred's stagehand. From that act of gentle defiance, the story moves to an unexpected figure who once worked behind Rogers' set, a young production assistant named Michael Keaton. Before he wore the cape and mask of Gotham's Dark Knight, Keaton was a Pittsburgh native searching for his first foothold in the entertainment world. His early job involved operating cameras, organizing props, and sometimes assisting with the neighborhood trolley, all while absorbing the quiet discipline that defined the show. In 1975, while most of American pop culture chased disco lights and loud personalities, Keaton found himself surrounded by puppets, set pieces, and a man who believed television could nurture the soul. It was here that he witnessed an entirely different approach to performance, not spectacle, but sincerity. Rogers rehearsed every moment carefully, ensuring that each word spoken to children carried honesty and purpose. For a young actor-to-be, it was a masterclass in authenticity. Keaton later credited Rogers as one of the most genuine people he had ever met. Years afterward, when fame arrived through Batman and Beetlejuice, he still spoke fondly of those early days when humility and purpose shared the same studio. In a sense, the neighborhood taught him the same lesson it offered its viewers, that greatness often begins quietly, through patience, respect, and meaningful work. The contrast between these two stories, a minister using a children's show to challenge racial prejudice, and a future movie star, learning to honor small details captures what made Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood timeless. Behind its slow rhythm and soft colors, the series became a workshop for empathy, creativity, and human decency. Its power was not in what it shouted, but in what it whispered, that goodness could be deliberate, and that even in entertainment, sincerity was its own kind of rebellion. Fact 10. His weight was a love letter and a daily reminder. Among the many quiet rituals that defined Fred Rogers' life, none was more peculiar or more revealing than the number on his bathroom scale. For over 3 decades, he maintained the exact same weight, 143 pounds. It was not coincidence or vanity. It was a message. To Rogers, the number 143 translated to I love you, 1 letter, 4 letters, 3 letters. Each morning when he stepped onto the scale, the reading became a personal affirmation of his purpose to remind both himself and his audience that love was measurable not in words, but in constancy. This small act reflected a larger philosophy that shaped every episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In a culture obsessed with ratings and image, Rogers used numbers to express meaning, not metrics. Maintaining his I love you weight became a form of spiritual discipline, a daily recommitment to kindness, patience, and humility. It was a subtle rebellion against the industry's obsession with change and spectacle. When Pennsylvania later declared May 23rd as 143 Day, it recognized not a celebrity, but a principle that love expressed consistently could become a habit as strong as any tradition. In a world that glorified transformation, Rogers taught the radical idea of staying true to one's values. That one steady number became an anchor amid the noise of television and a symbol that sometimes the smallest personal gestures carry the greatest meaning. Fact 9. 1 man, 50 voices. If the 143 ritual revealed Rogers' devotion to inner discipline, his mastery of voices exposed his creative empathy. Within the neighborhood of make-believe, audiences met a vivid cast of characters: King Friday the 13th, Daniel Striped Tiger, Lady Elaine Fairchild, each with distinct personalities, quirks, and fears. What few realized was that nearly every one of them came from Rogers himself. Behind the gentle pacing of the show was a one-man repertory company, switching seamlessly from royal proclamations to shy whispers. The diversity of these voices was not a performance trick. It was a psychological mirror. Through puppetry, Rogers explored emotions too complex for adult television: jealousy, anxiety, and loneliness. He gave children permission to see their own feelings reflected in a safe, imaginative space. In the 1970s, when most kids' programming relied on fast cuts and noise, Rogers offered emotional literacy instead. He didn't need digital effects or marketing gimmicks. His own voice, shifting tones and textures, carried the entire emotional range of a neighborhood. Modern educators and child psychologists often cite this as one of television's earliest experiments in emotional intelligence. Long before media studies coined the term parasocial relationship, Rogers instinctively understood that children could sense sincerity through tone. His many voices were not masks, they were bridges, each one a different way of saying, "I understand." Together, these two facts reveal the same truth from different angles, one expressed through numbers, the other through sound. Whether stepping on a scale or speaking as a puppet, Fred Rogers treated consistency as an act of love. His craft proved that kindness could be both precise and profound, measured not by spectacle, but by intention. Fact 8. Every sweater was knitted with love. To audiences, the act of Fred Rogers changing into his cardigan before each episode seemed routine, a comforting start to a familiar world. Yet those sweaters carried a story far deeper than style or tradition. Each was handmade by his mother, Nancy Rogers, who knitted them as gifts for her son throughout his life. Every stitch was personal, each thread a connection to home. When he slipped one on, he wasn't merely preparing for a show. He was honoring a maternal ritual of care that had followed him since childhood. In an age when television wardrobes were curated for branding and market appeal, Rogers' cardigans stood apart. They were quiet symbols of authenticity. Even after his mother passed away in 1981, the remaining sweaters became irreplaceable heirlooms. When one wore out, the production team struggled to find substitutes that carried the same warmth. Eventually, one cardigan was placed in the Smithsonian Institution, enshrined alongside relics of American history, because it represented something television rarely preserved: genuine affection. Those sweaters reminded viewers that love could be visible in simple gestures, woven not by stylists, but by family. It was the ultimate rejection of the disposable culture surrounding entertainment. Every time Rogers zipped up his cardigan, he offered the audience not a costume, but a quiet act of remembrance, proof that tenderness once given can be worn again and again. Fact 7. A gorilla who knew his routine. Nearly 2 decades later, that same tenderness found an unexpected echo in 1998 when Fred Rogers met Coco, the world-famous gorilla, who understood American Sign Language. The meeting took place at a research facility in California long before viral videos or social media reactions. When Coco saw him, she immediately recognized him from countless recordings she had watched. Then, in a moment that astonished scientists and melted hearts, she gently removed Rogers' shoes, imitating his opening ritual from the show, and embraced him. The encounter was more than sentimental coincidence. It was a demonstration of how empathy transcends species. Through countless episodes, Rogers had communicated calm, trust, and affection so clearly that even a gorilla could interpret it as love. The gesture revealed the universality of compassion, that kindness expressed consistently could cross every boundary of language and biology. For Rogers, the meeting was wordless confirmation that the values he shared through television, gentleness, respect, sincerity, were not limited to human audiences. For the rest of the world, it was a reminder that sincerity still mattered in an era increasingly driven by irony and performance. The image of a gorilla hugging a mild-mannered children's host spoke more eloquently than any speech about the power of emotional truth. The two facts together, his mother's handcrafted sweaters and a gorilla's instinctive recognition, form a continuum of empathy. From family love passed through fabric to interspecies. Understanding passed through gestures, Fred Rogers proved that sincerity was universal. His neighborhood, whether in Pittsburgh or in the heart of an animal halfway across the world, was built on the belief that warmth is a language every soul can understand. Fact 6. The urban legend that was beautifully wrong. Few public figures have inspired more improbable myths than Fred Rogers. Among the strangest was the claim that television's kindest man was secretly a decorated Navy SEAL sniper, his cardigan hiding a body covered in tattoos commemorating his kills. It was a story too bizarre and too irresistible for playgrounds and chat rooms to ignore. In an era before social media fact-checking, the rumor spread as easily as it amused. How could anyone be that gentle without harboring some darker, cinematic past? In truth, Rogers never served in the military. During the Vietnam War, he attended seminary school, preparing not for battle but for ministry. The confusion likely stemmed from another man with the same name who had been a Marine marksman. But the myth's persistence revealed something deeper about society's discomfort with pure kindness. For many, the idea of a man dedicating his life to empathy seemed implausible unless paired with hidden toughness or trauma. The rumor was a way to reconcile goodness with the modern craving for complexity. Yet the truth was far more profound than the fiction. Rogers' pacifism was deliberate, rooted in his belief that real strength came from restraint and understanding. He never condemned those who spread the rumor. He simply kept doing what he always did, showing children that compassion required no camouflage. Fact 5. He answered every fan letter. If the sniper legend exposed how the public projected darkness onto him, his private correspondence revealed how tirelessly he answered with light. Every day, Fred Rogers received between 15 and 30 letters from children and adults who had watched his show. He read each one. More astonishingly, he responded to every single one by hand, with the help of his longtime assistant, Elaine Crozier. In these letters, viewers shared their fears, grief, and small triumphs, divorce, illness, the death of a pet. Rogers replied not with pre-written messages or staff-generated templates, but with genuine attention. His words were measured gentle and specific to each person's experience. To him, correspondence was not fan management. It was pastoral care. This daily ritual reflected the same philosophy as the neighborhood itself, that every person deserved to be heard. In today's era of mass communication and fleeting digital replies, the notion feels almost mythic. But for Rogers, it was simply the continuation of his mission to make each child feel valued, no matter how many others were watching. Together, these two facts form a striking contrast, one born of rumor, the other of truth. While false stories imagined Rogers as a warrior hiding scars, the reality revealed a man who healed others with words. The myth sought toughness, the truth offered tenderness, and in a culture obsessed with spectacle, perhaps that gentleness was the most radical act of all. Fact 4. From pie fights to pulpit. Long before Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood became a fixture of gentle wisdom, American children's television was something very different. The 1950s were filled with slapstick chaos, hosts hurling pies, cartoon characters exploding, and laughter built from noise rather than meaning. When Fred Rogers first encountered this world, he was disheartened. The medium that could reach every home seemed content to entertain without conscience. While others laughed at custard-covered clowns, Rogers saw an opportunity wasted, a tool of influence being used without intention. That realization changed his life. Instead of complaining, he chose to transform television from within. After completing his seminary training, Rogers was ordained in 1963 as a Presbyterian minister with an unprecedented mission to use television as his pulpit. His congregation would be children, his sermons disguised as soft conversations about feelings, fairness, and kindness. There were no commandments, no moral lectures, just empathy woven into storytelling. This decision redefined what educational television could be. Every slow transition, every deliberate pause was a protest against the frenetic pace of mainstream entertainment. Rogers' camera became a confessional, inviting young viewers to slow down, think, and feel. His neighborhood was not a spectacle, it was sanctuary. Fact 3. He taught peace during wartime. 2 decades later, when the world once again trembled with conflict, Rogers carried that same ministry into one of his most daring storylines. In 1983, amid Cold War anxiety, the U.S. invasion of Grenada, and the bombing of Beirut, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood aired a multi-episode arc about war and peace. While other shows for children avoided any mention of global violence, Rogers did the opposite. He confronted it carefully through puppets and songs. Using the residents of the neighborhood of make-believe, he explored fear, misunderstanding, and reconciliation. The episodes explained why nations fight, how anger grows, and how dialogue can heal. For preschool television, it was revolutionary. Parents and producers worried it might be too heavy. Rogers insisted that children already heard frightening words like bomb and war from adult conversations and deserved gentle explanations. His approach was fearless precisely because it was tender. These lessons in empathy were in essence lessons in diplomacy. Rogers's quiet storytelling became an antidote to the era's televised hysteria. In an age of Cold War rhetoric, he offered warm reassurance that peace begins with how we treat each other. When seen together, these two facts, his rejection of television's chaos and his courage to discuss war with children, reveal the full breadth of his vision. Fred Rogers transformed a frivolous medium into moral art, turning screens meant for distraction into tools for understanding. In an era that glorified noise, he proved that stillness could be revolutionary. Fact 2. He couldn't see the colors that made him famous. Among all the quiet ironies in Fred Rogers' life, perhaps none was more poetic than this. The man, remembered for his colorful cardigans, could not truly see the colors that made them iconic. Rogers was red-green colorblind. To him, the vibrant sweaters that warmed generations of viewers appeared in muted shades, less vivid, less distinct. Yet the limitation never mattered. He chose those sweaters for comfort, routine, and symbolism, not aesthetics. Each one represented the continuity and warmth that defined his world, even if he saw them differently than everyone else. This irony perfectly captured his philosophy. For Rogers, meaning was never about surface impressions, but about intention. While producers across television calculated every visual detail to please audiences, he cared only about honesty. His color blindness, far from a hindrance, became an unspoken metaphor for how he viewed humanity without distinctions that separated one from another. It was fitting that his most enduring symbol, a red sweater, looked to him like something entirely ordinary. In that ordinariness, he found grace. In a sense, Rogers' gentle blindness to color mirrored his moral clarity. He looked past appearances, past trends and divisions, to see people as they were. The cardigan that became his trademark was not a costume, but a canvas proof that sincerity doesn't need perfect vision to see what truly matters. Fact 1. The accidental revolutionary. And so it seems only right that the final and strangest truth about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is that its quiet revolution was never intended. Fred Rogers never sought fame, controversy, or cultural power. He simply wanted to help children feel safe in a confusing world. Yet that modest goal made his program one of the most subversive in television history. While others built audiences through conflict and spectacle, Rogers built trust through calm. He discussed subjects most adults avoided: divorce, death, racism, and disability, with a candor unheard of in children's media. His approach defied every commercial rule: no merchandise, no cliffhangers, no manipulation. And yet the show endured for over 30 years because it met a universal need for authenticity. In hindsight, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood became a mirror of America's conscience. During the Cold War, the Civil Rights era, and the digital dawn, Rogers stood as a reminder that progress meant empathy, not speed. His revolution was accidental precisely because it was sincere. He didn't protest with volume or ideology. He protested by listening. In a medium built for distraction, he created presence. The 12 facts that trace his life from shared pools and handwritten letters to cardigans and gorillas compose more than nostalgia. They outline a philosophy of gentleness as resistance. Rogers showed that kindness is not naivety, that patience can be power, and that the smallest gestures, a smile, a song, a sweater, can echo for generations. For more than 3 decades, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood stood as an island of calm in a restless sea of noise. Its stories never relied on spectacle or cynicism, yet each moment carried quiet conviction. Across 12 remarkable facts, some humorous, some profound, the portrait that emerges is not of a television star, but of a man who turned empathy into a way of life. He made decency, cinematic, faith human, and kindness revolutionary. From a wading pool that defied segregation, to letters written by hand, from hand-knitted sweaters, to lessons about war and peace, Fred Rogers redefined what media could mean. He reminded a generation that connection is built in small acts: a conversation, a question, a shared song. Even his colorblindness and his constant "I love you" wait spoke the same truth that purpose lies in constancy, not perfection. Today, in an age ruled by algorithms and fleeting trends, his message feels more urgent than ever, that gentle words can carry lasting strength, and that sincerity still matters. Of the 12 facts above, which one surprised you the most? Perhaps it was the courage behind the pool scene or the gorilla who remembered him. Whatever it was, share your thoughts below. Your story is part of this neighborhood too. Thank you for watching. If this nostalgic journey brought you a moment of warmth, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to revisit more forgotten treasures of television history. See you in the next video. This is TV Time Capsule.